Fast loops. Sounds cool, right? Fast loops. A roller coaster ride of emotions. So what exactly is a fast loop? Well, if you're here, you are likely lost or confused. I don't know which one. A fast loop runs an event or events as many times as you want just before a frame is rendered. So a game running 60 frames per second can have like a fast loop run at 10, 20 or 100 times in one of those frames. Pretty useful, really. Want an explosion made up of 50 particles but are tired of copying and pasting with your Control C and V? Use a fast loop. High-speed bullet going through walls without accurate collision detection? Use a fast loop. I will explain this in time. Oh shit. I'll explain it better. Okay, here's a quick breakdown. I'm gonna show you and take you through the whole process. It's gonna be real fun. Here is the event with me creating a little explosion, one event at a time with like when I click. So you can see it here, I'm clicking and just one little fire explosion. Now I can copy paste and that would be great, I guess, but that's a bit silly now. Oh, and don't forget, if you want an explosion to be created where you want, remember like to set the position afterwards to X mouse on X position and Y mouse for Y position. It's great. So instead, let's have a fast loop run. So, like, say, when we right click, start a loop, call it something fun. Yeah, just enter that there. Enter the amount of times you want to run that action. As I said, you can make that a value, or just 10, 20, or 50. Now we slip in a new event, as I'm showing you here. A fast loop called whatever you called it before. I don't know, some joke here. I make the same event from before, but now it's fast looped. So I go test that, and now I have this sexiest of explosions. You can even change the amount of times you run a loop with an alterable value, as I said before. Customize the intensity of the explosion, or whatever it is you make. Make some more changes here and there, and the explosion gets sexier as all hell. So that's the basic fast loop. Something slightly more advanced, well, not that much more advanced, is what a lot of coders and real people who are real coders, I don't know, I sound stupid. People who don't use clickteam fusion or other things like Construct 2, Game Salad. I haven't had much experience with those, but if you want accurate collision detection in clickteam fusion at the very least, you need to use fast loops, and they're very useful. And I'll put a link in here. Explains it better than what I'm doing. So, collision detection can be a piece of unpleasantness when it comes to clickteam. Ergo, we need some definitive... Oh my god, who wrote this? This is bad. Okay, so fast loops usually used for customized character movement, especially in clickteam. Clickteam, you have your inbuilt movement functions, but they're not as good as making your own customized ones. So here we go, nice and slow. Okay, here's an example. Here's a block. It moves right 20 pixels when I tell the bugger. So push down the right button, it's moving right. That's the event I have splashed in there. The crappy painted wall is supposed to stop him, but when the grey player hits the wall, he just passes through him like yesterday's cheese. I wrote this yesterday, and it's not... Okay, so now here comes the fun. Instead of moving every frame 20 pixels to maybe make a collision with that object, especially if that wall is 10 pixels like wide, it's just going to go right through it. It's just going to be skipping ahead. Where fast loops come into it, instead of moving 10 pixels at a time, you're moving 1 pixel at a time, but 20 times before each frame. Are you getting what I'm saying? So when you push down right, or, you know, move right button, you know, you can customize that to whatever you want. Instead of moving pixels, we start a fast loop. No funny names now, I mean, let's just call it move right, so we know what's going on, and have it activate 20 times, as in move 20 pixels. Now set up the loop with the actions as before, but have it move 1 pixel instead of 20. Are you getting it? Now make a collision event inside that loop, as such here. So as before, instead of like pushing away 20 pixels, it's actually pushing away 1 pixel. And there we have it. there you go. Simple matter of setting up the rest of the movement keys and interactions with other backdrops and actives, and you're done, really. I'm gonna cut that out because that's irrelevant. This is like really useful, basic stuff. But it took me like 500 hours of like messing around in clickteam to actually figure out that I really need this stuff. If you want accurate collision detections, like you can make the best looking game or prettiest thing that looks great, but if it's completely fucked up because of collision detections, or it's just like really messy code, this can really tighten it up. Now, as to what else a fast loop tool can do, I can't explain it well. It makes my head hurt. Spreading values, retrieving data from a specific active that fits another active's requirements is, well, it's complicated, and I'm not that good at maths. Best way for me to describe it is see these soldiers here. They're here to shoot at the nearest zombie. And to figure that out is surprisingly difficult. They always seem to aim at the newest zombie rather than the nearest. To get the right results required fast looping within fast looping, or a nested loop. And deconstructing an example found on the Castle Britain Multimedia Fusion website, I may have said something about that in the last video. I mean, I'd explain in detail how to implement this function, like to find the nearest object, but it's very complicated. For me, anyway. I mean, I'm not that smart. But I will link the example file which I used to deconstruct and figure out how it works. So, actually, when I finally figured out how it worked, which I'm not explaining here at all, but I am giving you the file, link, thing, I was so happy when I finally got this to work. I mean, it worked perfectly. The guys, each soldier was like shooting their own guy, or zombies for that matter. Each of the soldiers had their own gun they were firing that you could customize. It was all kind of a setup system. And it was going to be an Android phone that it would be running on. But translating that to a phone where you can like tap and shoot and stuff absolutely killed the frame rate. Like, it was running at 60 frames per second before, and you could have lots of explosions, and the soldiers were there all shooting away when there's like 50 zombies on screen. It was great. But as soon as it went above 10 zombies, which isn't really a zombie horde, is it? It's more of a shambles. Yeah, it just became a slideshow. So now it was completely fucked, and I was back to square one. So what did I do? Good question. This is actually a very important point I want to make, especially regarding clickteam fusion and making things more complicated than they need to be. Complex solutions to these relatively simple problems are not always the best route to take. So finding the nearest active from another active, or finding the nearest zombie for each one of these soldiers was very difficult to find out. But the simplest solution I actually found was just bringing it right back to just having an expanding sensor on top of each unit. You spread the value on the soldier that you have and the sensor. So if you want to see the spread value thing here, if soldier 0 with his ID being 0 and the sensor 0, the ID of the sensor being 0, equal the same thing, overlapping each other and overlapping a zombie, you can shoot that zombie. You can set how big the sensor goes by setting the scaling options. It's a little bit clumsily thrown together, maybe, or maybe it's simple. I'm not sure. Yeah, as soon as that sensor that's ever expanding, as you can see here, touches an enemy, it sets back to 0 and goes back out again. But also you can set like when it triggers up that, or how fast it goes out. And if you want accurate collision detection, just as I said, do a loop. So yeah, it's not the most elegant solution, but it's certainly better than the slideshow I was having before, which was just overly complicated. On PC it ran fine, don't get me wrong, but there's easy ways of doing it. Not necessarily the prettiest way of doing it, but it works. As I said, put in some fast loop scaling options and, you know, you've got real good collision detection for that sensor. Because I was having issues before, but I won't get into that. So, what did I learn? What did you learn? Technology, science, I don't know, because this is the end of the video.